From the perspective of being able to help people, and even for yourself, you've developed a strategy that you help other people be able to land jobs abroad within 90 days. Can you give us an outline of how your strategy works?
You're listening to Keep Your Life on Track with Wusi Global.
Thank you so much for joining me today on Keep Your Life on Track, Lucy. We're going to be talking about landing higher paying jobs abroad within 90 days with you. It's something that you've done, and I was so excited when I first saw your post come up on LinkedIn that you founded your own company, Hey Globally, and we're going to get into it today, but really, really excited to have you on. And for anyone who is watching, Lucy is a location independent international career expert who is on a mission to help global talent find jobs abroad. She's the founder of Hey Globally, as I just mentioned, a platform that helps global talent find jobs with visa sponsorships and remote work opportunities. Did I miss anything in your introduction, Lucy?
Clap, clap, clap. Wow, such a good end intro. I'm so honored to be here today, Boozy. I'm so happy to be here today. And wow, thanks so much for the great introduction. You make me feel like you boost my confidence right now. I'm like, whoo, I feel good.
You have no idea how excited I was. And when I heard that we know a mutual person, I was like,
Mm,
this is even perfect.
I
I told
know.
Mega, I said, I'm gonna drop your name when I reach out to her.
I mean, I love Mega. She and I work together, and then obviously, like, we have like mutual connection that really definitely helped. But I was really happy to when you reached out to me. So I'm thrilled to be here today. Honored.
So let's get into it. Now, you have successfully built your international career in 4 countries, right? That being South Korea, Singapore, the Netherlands, which I've also lived in, by the way, and Canada. Can you please share your personal career journey with us? Like, where did you grow up and what motivated you to pursue opportunities abroad?
Yes, thanks for asking. So I was born and raised in South Korea. So born and raised, went to university there, right? But since I was growing up, like I always knew that Korea is such a small country. I want to go abroad. I want to live abroad. The world is so big because Korea is like such a homogeneous country. You would see like 95% of like people living in Korea, we are Korean and we speak Korean. It's a very, very homogeneous country. I always have a like deep thirst of going abroad since I was young. But then, like after university, I studied English and journalism, mass communication. And then I worked in the fashion magazine for a while during university. And then I changed my career to hospitality. I worked in the airline industry when I was working in South Korea for 2 years before moving to Singapore. And then, okay, now it's time for me to move abroad and find a job abroad. But I want to make sure that I find a good opportunity overseas, right? Because I've been always, career driven, career oriented person. I want to grow my career internationally. So how can I find a job abroad? And then I've done many research and I realized that is either you also work in tech, so you would resonate a little bit with me. Yeah, I guess. But I was working in hospitality back then, but I was like, okay, it's either tech or finance to find a really good higher paying job abroad and also just grow my career internationally. So that's why I applied for a job in Singapore, and that I was lucky enough to find a job before moving there. And then they did everything. The company did everything about relocation. They gave me 1 month's residence and then buy me a flight ticket. I was like, oh my goodness, is this really happening to me?
Nice.
And then I moved to Singapore and lived there for about 4 years. That's my first experience living abroad as a worker and in a completely new industry. And then after living in Singapore, I moved to the Netherlands. We can definitely talk more about Netherlands because you also live there. And then I came back to Korea and I was like, okay, now I really need to settle down in one country. I want to immigrate. Where should I go? And then in 2018 I decided to move to Canada, and yeah, since then I Canada for me. So that's my journey. But in terms of my career, initially I worked in journalism and then transitioned into hospitality and then transitioned to the tech industry. So I've been working in tech industry for about 8 to 9 years before I launched my company Hey Globally.
And that transition when you came into tech, how was that for you? Was it easy transition? Because I know there's some people who want to get into tech. So how did that journey look like for you?
Initially, it was very challenging because I knew nothing about tech. I didn't study any computer engineering. I didn't study any tech stuff in my uni. So I initially, before transitioning into tech, I just had no idea that I am able to work in the tech. I didn't know that it was even possible for me. I thought because like back then it was like more than 10 years ago. Back then I was like, oh, tech industry is for developers. That's like
Coding.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's I had the perception that I had in mind. But then yeah, like initially the first couple months I remember I was handling the vendor. It was like networking and security solutions. I had no idea. So I had to really learn the secure cybersecurity and networking and all the things. So initially it was a bit difficult, but I like learning new things. So that helped me when transitioning into tech. But initially, definitely it was challenging to learn new things.
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. And I think that's the theme overall in the tech space. You're constantly going to be learning. But I also do think that from that just being technical perspective, at some point when I was still studying, I was in the IT department, even from university. But I always, even then, kind of thought like you need to be like a technical person to work in tech, which is not the case. It is not the case at all. So, in your journey, like working in the different 4 different countries, what would you say were some of the key factors that contributed to your success in building a career in those countries?
That's a great question. I don't know if you would resonate with me, but I, whenever I changed my country, whenever, like I told you, like when I tried to transition my new industry in tech in Singapore, because, and also my background is sales. For 8 9 years, I've done software sales. Sales meaning it's very client
That's where I
facing.
started as well.
Oh, okay. We have a lot to talk
Yeah.
about. It's a lot about like client facing role, which means there's a lot of a culture aspect that companies require you to have, and also language as well. So when I first moved to Singapore, it was the Netherlands and Canada. A lot of my friends or people around me told me that, oh, it's not possible. It's gonna be so difficult for you to find a job without having even technical skills. It's gonna be very. How are you gonna sell software in Singapore? How are you gonna do sales in Netherlands? Like for example, you don't even speak Dutch, or you're not European, so and
Yeah.
so. In Canada as well. Canada, we have lots to talk about, but you never worked in Canada. Canada is North America. There are English native speakers there, and then like yada yada yada, right? So I had to really overcome a lot of limiting beliefs that I would say limiting beliefs that many people, the perceptions that a lot of people tend to have, right? So, but then like in turn to answer your question, what really contributed quote unquote my success in my international career is like really understand my niche means like my expertise. Like I remember when I first got a job in Singapore, even though my background was hospitality, I knew that I've done in airline company, I've done B2B sales and I've done like channel, more of a channel management kind of sales. So I try to pitch my that expertise to the new industry, but it's transferable skills, right? So I didn't just like look
Hmm.
for a position that's that I cannot win over other local candidates and also other B2B like tech sales, but I was like highlighting my experience in channel sales and channel management, right? And then when I moved to the Netherlands, obviously I don't speak Dutch. I'm not European. So there are many obstacles that I have compared to other European candidates, right? However,
Yeah.
I remember I was specifically targeting a company where they can leverage my holistic experience from I started as a business development and then like closing deals, right? So that was kind of like I try to find a role and company that could appreciate my holistic expertise and try to kind of like navigate what how can I value the how can the company benefit the most from me every single time.
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess I guess I can call it that's contributed my quote unquote international career success.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned that transferable skills, that you might
Mhm.
be in a role, you're thinking of moving to a different one, but now you're like, oh, I'm going to be starting from scratch with anything. As long as you have been working, that experience counts for something. It counts for something.
Definitely. I 100% agree with you.
And then from the perspective of being able to help people, and even for yourself, you've developed a strategy that you help other people be able to land jobs abroad within 90 days. Can you give us an outline of how your strategy works, or how did you come about with it throughout your experience just finding jobs in different countries? Because 90 days is it's a pretty short period of time. I mean, it's long, but it's
Yeah.
short at the same time. And I know a lot of people struggle when they are looking for opportunities outside of where they currently live. So how do you do it?
So yeah, first of all, 90 days can be short as well as you said, because considering getting a job offer and also if you need any visa sponsorship, considering the time, the visa processing time as well, finding a job, and also in terms of like interview process takes like it could take a month even nowadays. So, but 90 days is highly possible. I've been working with global talents from 20 over 20 countries so far, and then everyone has like different kind of backgrounds from sales, marketing to developers, and cybersecurity, and so on. And yeah, I admit that everyone's journey is very different. Maybe some of them started already have been applying for so many jobs, but others maybe it's their first time applying for jobs, right?
Hmm.
One thing that I would want to mention here is that when you come now, especially after pandemic, I want to highlight this one because it's important because after especially after pandemic, a lot more employers are willing to well, we are kind of forced to hire people remotely. And right during pandemic, interviewing people online has been a new norm. And then working remotely has been a new norm. It's a good thing now compare now to 2012 when I first got a job in Singapore. I remember when I first had an interview with the employer in Singapore, we did a phone call because Zoom and online
Was
interview was
not a
not
thing.
even a thing. Exactly. So so I want to highlight that the infrastructure is here now, right? Meaning that like employers are willing to hire talent from overseas, right? And also, I know that 17% of companies in the US they have distributed teams, so they don't have any office, so they can they hire employees globally, for example, right? So infrastructure
Hmm.
is there. However, the problem is 2012, 2013, 2014 economy was great, right? The layoff and those kind of thing was not a norm per se back then. So even though the infrastructure was not there, employers are willing to invest and then hire globally and stuff like that. However, now infrastructure here, however, the economy is down, right? Inflation is up,
Yeah.
and also layoff has become new norm. Interestingly, right? It's a norm, right?
Yeah.
I saw the statistics that like about 50% of like people in America they experience layoff or anything related to
Wow.
that sector. So it's becoming a new norm, right? So I want to highlight that because the good thing is infrastructure is here, and employers know that diversity is very important to the company, and they need to go global to hire amazing talent, right? There are many aspects to that as well, but like infrastructure is here. But then because the economy is down and because the all the situation that we're facing is it's becoming more important to really highlight and find our quote unquote zone of genius and expertise, right? Even I know that you've been working in tech for 10 years, I guess, and then like customer success manager, but not all customer success manager, not all sales person have same
True. Very
profile,
true.
right? Exactly. Even though the job that requires the job scope and responsibilities, everything is somewhat similar, but every my profile, your profile is different, right? So we really need to understand our zone of genius and expertise. That's one of the that usually when I work with my clients, I spend 2 weeks because that's the foundation, a core foundation that's so important. And then when you really find out like your zone of genius and expertise and target the right roles and target the right companies, it really helps to expedite the process. That's why the secret sauce of the 90 days journey is that.
It's one of those things I won't say I've personally done very consciously,
Mhm.
but understanding yourself means you're able to sell yourself a lot better.
Mhm.
Because when we're looking for jobs, we're selling ourselves. Because I'll hear people say, "Oh, I'm not a good salesperson. Maybe I don't want to go into sales." But every time we are looking for jobs, we are selling, and the product we're
Exactly.
selling is ourselves. And if we don't know ourselves or understand what sets us apart from the next person, it's going to be difficult to stand out even in that interviewing process. So I absolutely love that, and it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to industries, are you mainly focused on tech, like the people that work with you, or do you go across different industries?
Yeah. So initially, I started as a tech because tech is something that I'm the most familiar with. But interestingly, nowadays, every company is considered as tech, even like pharmaceutical
That's
companies
true,
or
actually.
right? They
Yeah.
exactly. So manufacturing company or even logistics company, they somewhat have tech aspects. They like so initially I started was like, okay, tech companies or technical roles like software companies, etc. But then now, okay, actually every company is kind of like tech. So I work with basically any like technical person, let's say working in even like hospitality industry or engineer in hospitality industry or working in a consulting firm, right? Working in the logistics, but a bit of technical kind of aspect towards it. So yeah, I would say technical roles or non-technical positions like myself, like salesperson, but working in a tech company, etc. So a bit there I would say like industry is very like broad,
Hmm.
but I would say either technical roles or working in a tech related kind of
Kind
companies.
of job.
So yeah.
Okay, got it, got it.
Mhm.
And then for anyone who might be watching and they're not in that tech space as such, what advice would you give them from trying to look for a job abroad and find a job abroad that has the visa sponsorship potentially, or maybe even remote work, depending on the type of job that they do?
Mhm, mhm. I actually helped one of my clients to transition her career in education, like teaching. I've seen in recent years,
Okay.
like a lot of teachers want to transition. I think the remote job, remote kind of like era. I guess like some of the industries is happening a lot these days over the years, I guess. So teachers transition into the tech industry, right? Again, I think you mentioned earlier, which is really great point, transferable skills, right? Because I also transition industries for multiple times, and then I helped other people. I also seen people change their
Hmm.
industry to tech. So there are, as we discussed earlier, I also thought that oh working in tech that requires a lot of like technical kind of like coding skills of so and so, but actually it's not true. Like even account executive and onboarding specialist, learning and development specialist, or a customer success, or any or a community manager, there are so many roles that you can go to without having experience working in tech, right? So as long as you are able to convey your
Yeah.
experience and transfer skills to the tech industry, that's highly possible. But one thing that I would definitely recommend is if you don't have any experience working in tech, it would be definitely helpful to show your tech savvy side, right? Maybe like some projects that you worked on. It doesn't have to be coding or anything like that, but make sure to highlight that in your job. You use like, for example, like Zoom, Slack, or whatever, like tech savvy things. Then like employer's perspective, oh, you didn't work in
Oh,
tech.
okay.
However, you are familiar with using technologies in your job, even especially remote job. That is super important nowadays, right? So, but even though you don't have any experience working in
Hmm.
tech, it's highly possible as long as you can show your transferable skills to the job in the tech industry.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I had asked questions on my Instagram. I had put up questions people could submit and ask to you. And there was one particular person who said they currently work as a teacher in China. And they wanted to know what that process could potentially look like of landing a job in Canada as a teacher. And I understand you might not have
Mm,
the specific experience to say, from a teacher's perspective, this is how it would look.
mm,
But if that person potentially, and if you do have something maybe that you could share, please do from that teacher's perspective.
mm.
But if the person is watching and they're thinking, I would be interested in moving from teaching to something else because you do have someone you just mentioned is a
Mm.
client and they were a teacher and they're trying to transition to something else. So how would they know maybe that it would be a good path for them to work with you if they still even trying to figure out what could I branch into if I do move away? And I don't know though if they are looking at doing that, but if someone was looking to move from being a teacher and transition to something else, what would you say is the most ideal person to reach out to you and say, "Hey, I'm a teacher and I would love to work with you and transition.
Yeah, that's a good question. So what I've noticed, the person that I helped, the client, the previous client that I helped with, she transitioned from being a teacher to onboarding specialist. So onboarding is usually not all tech companies have onboarding specialists, but especially software companies, like especially if they are, yeah, software companies that SaaS companies, they tend to have a lot of onboarding specialists in the company. Like in my previous company as well, we had a huge onboarding team as well. It really depends on the company and the product that they're selling. But onboarding specialists, it's such a great role for teachers to transition into. I know that. Okay, so I would say two things. But first, onboarding specialists is a great role for teachers to transition into because their job is basically after salesperson sell this product to the new customers, the onboarding specialist then hop on a call with this person to give a full training. If they're selling a software program, hey, this is how you use this software. And then basically they're teaching, they're educating this new customer. And then that goes to customer success. Depends on the company's structure, but usually that goes to customer success, and the customer success will take care of the customer journey overall. So a lot of coaching, training skills and educating skills are very required for onboarding specialists per se. So that's definitely one role that I would recommend. And also, as a teacher, if you have experience with building curriculums, if you worked on a lot of curriculum design and stuff like that, then L&D, like learning and development, is very important as well. It depends on your teaching experience as well. But as a teacher, maybe you also work as a supervisor of other teachers, and you kind of like maybe create a curriculum for the other teachers, then definitely that kind of like experience will transition very well to the L&D position, because L&D, what they do is they create like design and curriculum for employees for their success, right? So yeah,
Mhm.
so those are the two roles that I would say. It also depends on the software, but then again, it goes back to our expertise and our niche and our zone of genius that I mentioned earlier. So, for example, if you were a teacher, maybe K-12, I guess, like is how you call, right? Like elementary school, right? Then in the US and Canada as well, there are many like softwares that are designed for teachers to use, right? So as a customer success person or onboarding specialist person, they actually specifically want to hire teachers who have experience as a teacher, because their job is mainly talking to teachers, educating them how to use this software, right? And then they have been in the position before. So yeah, so there are many different ways to transition from a teacher to different roles in tech. So that's why, but
Yeah.
definitely not every role is for you, right? For example, maybe you want to continue teaching young students, then totally different story. So self-awareness is very important when it comes to also transitioning. But I want to highlight that it's very, very highly possible to
There's
transition
options.
for
Yeah.
teacher. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the options you mentioned, they make a lot of sense because from a customer success manager perspective, I've worked for companies that have an onboarding specialist that will work with the customer directly after sales, and then you take over after them.
Yeah.
And some companies just bundle it together. You're the customer success manager, you have to onboard the customer yourself. And another role that jumped up in my mind as you were just explaining and going through it is customer success operations teams. So
Mm.
I've worked in companies that have a CS operations team, and what their job is to develop material for us as the people who are going into the field, like customer facing. So we don't have to build our own decks for whatever new product might be coming in. And the companies also offer training. So for anyone who's thinking, oh, but I won't know their software or what they are selling specifically, I have been focused with one company for, I think, like over 6 years. And then I moved to a completely different software and I had to relearn that. It's just a learning process. I think that's the biggest thing. It's a learning process, but yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And there's a lot of options for sure for anyone who would want and is interested in transitioning. Now, from a networking and just building up your professional relationships when you're seeking job opportunities abroad, what tips can you offer to help anyone who's watching just effectively network in a global context?
Yeah. So networking, I will say two things. First, in-person networking events, and second is virtual networking. Like nowadays, like virtual networking, coffee chats, finding people on LinkedIn and reaching out to them, having a coffee chat have become very norm these days. And it's more, I would say that past is more prevalent and more common in North America culture, I would say, or European culture. Asia, not so much yet, but it's more of a North America culture. I think that's more common. But I want to definitely highlight on in-person networking event as well. Coming from Korea, we are not used now, it's changing a lot, but we don't do a lot of networking things. We don't really go to networking events reaching out to people, hey, want to have a chat. That's not the
Okay.
culture that we have in South Korea, at least for South Korea. So when I first moved to Canada, I heard so many things about, hey, you need to go to networking event. You need to expand your, you need to go there. You have to get out there. Oh my goodness, this is not my comfort zone. You agree? So, oh gosh,
Yeah.
I remember at first I was because I went to lots of networking events in Canada. I remember when I went, I was so nervous. And when you go to networking event, there's a welcome session. Usually depends, but there's a welcome session where there's a beer and a glass of wine. I remember like sometimes I kind of forced my friend to go with me. Sometimes I go alone. I'm like, okay, what should I do? Oh my God, there are so many people here. Let me get a wine. I'm calm now. Now I can talk. And then, like, the good thing is that, so, like, the more I practice, it gets better. But, like, still, like, networking is not maybe some people I have no problem networking. I'm born to do that, but I'm sure that for majority of people, is some especially you're an immigrant, you're
It's
coming
not
from
the most natural.
it's not the most natural. It's a nerve-wracking experience. But I would say like networking event, especially when you move to a new country, it's definitely a good opportunity. Like for me at least, like when I first moved to Canada, Canada is it's a new country, new experience. So I went to networking event, of course, expanding my network and job opportunities. But at the same time, I went. My purpose is going there to really learn more about the Canadian job market system and also how people interact with each other, right? So yeah, I remember when I first went there with, oh my God, I'm gonna get a job. I'm gonna get a job. I'm gonna do something, right? Then like my focus is only on job, and then like I get more nervous. But like I go there with open minded, right? Okay, I'm here. I'm just gonna observe how people interact in Canada, how Canadians interact with each other, how they find a new opportunity, how I can actually really pitch myself to other people, right? So on that hand, like it's definitely helpful. And I remember one tech event I went to in Canada in Toronto. I was so eager. I came to the, I guess like he's a CEO. Yeah, he's a CEO. He was one of the panel. And then, hey, your company is really amazing. I'm looking for a position here. I love what you do because of ABC. And he was like, okay, I'll go talk to her. She's a hiring manager. Okay. Okay. And I was
Oh,
so eager. And
yeah.
I went to her. I came to her, and then she was like, oh, hi. Yeah. Yeah. We're not looking for a new salesperson right now, but drop me an email. Let me reach out back. I was like, okay, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. It's not a no. It's not a
Yeah.
no. She didn't close it. So she didn't said no. So it's good. So I connect with her on LinkedIn. I followed up with her. She didn't say yes right away, but in a month, but I already kind of found a job already back then. But like in a month, she reached out to me and she was like, hey, are you still looking for a job? So you never know. So
Nice.
like a lot of people, I noticed, even my friends as well, a lot of people, even me as well, I remember that. When you go to a networking event, your expectation is so high, right? And then like when you don't find that opportunity, when you don't close the deal, the when you don't have the desired outcome that you had in mind when you go to networking event, you get like frustrated. Oh my gosh, this is not working. Oh my God, I wasted like
Yeah.
3 hours of my time to go to networking event. This is not worth it. Yada yada. I'm like, I also thought that initially, and also my friends also tell me that as well. But you just never know. That's my opinion. So yeah, so
Yeah.
when you go to networking event, I always encourage people just go with open minded. You just never know. You never know what this network would mean, right? And for you and me as well, like I love you reach out to me, but like the fact that we had one person in common, right? It
It
definitely
made it
helped as well.
easier.
Exactly, it
Yeah.
helped easier, right? I feel already more comfortable with you before
Yeah.
even like talking to you. So that you never know, right? So it's always like networking is important, but just go with open minded. That's my recommendation.
I love that. I love that. Now, from a region or country's perspective, do you find that, and which countries would those be? Do you find that there's countries that are more welcoming and offer better opportunities for remote work and visa sponsorships? And which are those countries?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we both immigrated to Canada. So we are, I guess, like you and I are used to Canadian system, but like I think Canada, for example, Canada, Australia, those countries are well, yeah, Canada, Australia, for example, is a hugely immigration country. So Canada, I would say yes, you can get a visa sponsorship. Yes, there are many different kind of schemes and ways, but I would say Canada, for example, is more immigration friendly. That's what I would say. Getting a permanent residency and getting a job, like the
Mhm.
ideal way in Canada, I would say, would be getting a permanent residency, whether you can get it from express entry or any, but there are many different ways, right? Or PMP, or different ways getting a PR, and then having the legality to get a job here and then find the job offer. Or getting a remote. And then in that sense, in terms of visa sponsorship, I would say Canada, Australia, more of an immigration route would be more common than companies sponsoring a visa. Yes, there are different ways, but that's like in generally speaking. However, in terms of a work visa sponsorship, Europe and Asia, like for example, Germany, the Netherlands, and UK. UK boasts immigration and work visa sponsorship as well, but like in terms of work visa sponsorship, if you are open to any countries in the world, I would say Germany and the Netherlands are very open. In Germany, I think in 2021, 2022, the government announced that we're going to attract so many global talent from overseas. So like Germany and the Netherlands, from my clients' experience as well, is very, very open. But like
Mhm.
in terms of remote work, USA, United States, and Canada, let's say you're currently overseas and you want to move to Canada or you want to move to somewhere else. But first you want to get a remote job first, and then like you want to gain some experiences there, especially Canada as well. Having some sort of like experience working in Canadian market definitely helps when you find a job in Canada in the future as well. So if you want to prepare for that, definitely highly encourage you to find a remote job in the US and Canada. So in terms of remote job, obviously United States and Canada are very open to that. Like they are depends on the company, but like in terms of the countryside countries, I would say United States and Canada are the most open to hire people remotely. And then I feel like it's
Okay.
expanding to other countries in the future as well. But yeah, that's the current kind of environment I can see.
Sounds good. There was a question from someone on Instagram who wanted to know how they can get a remote job in the US while they are in Canada. So they're in Canada,
Oh.
but they would like to work for a US company. I'm assuming they want the US dollar instead of the Canadian dollar. Because I'm
Smart.
like, you're in Canada, but yeah, live this side, get paid in US dollars. That would be nice. But what would you advise that they do?
Yeah. I mean, if you are based already based in Canada, if you're looking for a job in the USA, it's so much easier compared to other people living outside of Canada, for example, because there are many companies in the USA. They are when you look for remote jobs, not all companies, but a lot of companies actually, if they especially for remote first and remote friendly companies, they usually say anyone we are a remote first company and we hire anybody in the US and Canada. That's very common, especially for the companies, remote first companies. So my first suggestion would be definitely find out like who are, because you don't want to waste your time in applying for jobs in a company where they don't allow remote, they don't have remote culture, right? So definitely my first recommendation is find out who are the remote first companies, who are the remote friendly companies. And they usually, if they have an office in Canada, they're more willing to, because they don't have to, you know, worry about the legality, logistics, and tax and all those kind of things. So they can hire you remotely, or
Mhm.
they can also hire you as a contractor or freelancers, they don't have to, if they don't have an office, even if they don't have an office in Canada, they can hire you as a freelancer contractor. So to kind of like, if the company already has done it before, they're used to it, right? So they know what to do. But let's say if you're applying for a job, they never have done it, it's a small company, then make sure to ease their process. Hey, I'm looking for a contract position, and this is how you can hire me. Logistically, you don't have to worry about me, so and so, right? It's basically you make their job easier so that they don't have any kind of obstacles. Oh, okay. It's not that difficult, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but I would say if you're based in Canada already, there are many companies in the USA. There are, first of all, like many remote jobs, and also they're usually open to hire people in USA and Canada. So if you're already based in Canada, it's definitely easier.
That makes sense. And from a tools, resources, maybe platform perspective, are there any that you could recommend for people to find a lot more of those types of companies?
Hmm. Well, let me promote my company.
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
yes. I mean, we're a small company, so obviously it's a startup. So with limited resources, we're trying our best to be expedite the process. But yeah, definitely Hagelably. I want to. There are many other resources as well, but definitely Hagelably. We're That's what we're trying to solve as well. There are many amazing global talent from everywhere in the world, but it's so difficult to. And then from my experience as well, and from my clients' experience as well, there are many companies out there who are willing to sponsor the work visa, but people don't really know. So this is a
Yeah.
bridge that, yeah, this is a bridge that we are trying to narrow and try to connect between the two. So definitely, if you have not yet, definitely register for free on Hey Globally, and you're gonna receive the weekly emails from us. And I also do have a free resource on my website where there are 10 different kind of job boards where anyone can go and check out remote jobs. So definitely go and check out the free resources as well. Like we work remotely. I think those are the famous ones, but there are 10 other different ones. But also definitely leverage LinkedIn as well. I mean, LinkedIn is such a great resource in my opinion. Over 100 million people use LinkedIn, and then especially if you're looking for a job in North America, Europe, LinkedIn is like a must have, right? Even though like companies post jobs like other platforms, you will find the same posting on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, you'll definitely, I would recommend.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And I also had seen the free guide. It's called the top 10 places to find jobs abroad and remote jobs. So I love that you brought it up first.
Oh, thank you, Lucy.
I will definitely add a link in the show notes and the description of the video, both on YouTube and on the podcast, for anyone who is listening so they can find the resource and find your website and know how to easily reach out to you. Do you have any tips or any advice for listeners or anyone who's watching who aspires to build a successful career abroad and secure that higher paying remote job or job abroad in general?
Yeah. So, couple of things. I think that the first I would say is, okay, these two are related, but definitely really deep dive into your expertise, right? Because I noticed that a lot of people tend to, especially like when you're looking for a job abroad, you feel like, oh, I'm gonna apply for this job. I'm gonna apply for that job as well. I can do both. I can do sales. I can do marketing. I can do everything, because that actually comes stems from the mindset where, oh, I really want a job abroad, I actually really can do everything, because you have a lot of skills to offer. However, that actually, can be very detrimental, because I remember one of my clients, she's a digital marketing manager, and then when she was looking for a job, actually she was looking for a job in Singapore. She was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be digital marketing manager." But then, she has been applying. There are many digital marketing manager jobs, but digital marketing alone is so broad, right? Digital marketing has like social media, SEO, or content creation. There are so many different kind of like jobs underneath in the whole umbrella. So we decided to really niche down and really hone into her own zone of genius, and that happens to be SEO. And then once we really hone it down, she found a job within a couple weeks, right? So, and then, yeah, and then I would say expertise and really niche down. Like sometimes we try to abroad now so much. So if there's any one tip that I can give to your listeners, then that would be my first tip. And also, really, it's more about that's the kind of like tangible advice, but really believe that you can do it. I mean, honestly, as I said, like infrastructures here, many companies out there, are willing to sponsor your visa. If they're not, then at least a remote job. And then like you show them, hey, I can work for you. I can show my ability. And then and then later they see your value and everything. They can also, offer a visa sponsorship as well. You can start as a remote job first, and then later there are many, many possibilities, right? And also, even like when you apply for a job or during the interview as well, really one question that I love asking, that I love is like really asking ourselves that what's really in it for them, right? What can they benefit from me? What can they benefit by hiring us, right? We tend to, like, including myself as well, we always think of like, what can I get, what can I get? But actually what's in it for them? Then like when we shift our kind of perspectives from their side, we can pitch accordingly depending on their needs and what they're looking for. So I believe that everyone deserves to live in a place where they feel the happiest. And if you're looking for a job abroad, if you're looking to have a better life, and then I really believe that everyone is eligible. Everyone should, create a life that they desire, no matter what. So yeah, that's my message.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So, if people want to work with you, is your website the best place for them to go and find you and be able to book time with you, or how would you want people to reach out to you?
Yeah, first, I would say like first, but definitely if you're looking for a job abroad or a remote job, definitely register for free on heyglobally.com. And also if you want some free resources, definitely download, I think as Abuzi mentioned, download the resources. If you're interested in working with me, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn so we can definitely have a chat about how I can potentially help you, right? Yeah, and definitely check out my website as well. But
Sounds
LinkedIn
good.
is the best place. Yeah.
LinkedIn. Okay. I will add all of the links so they don't struggle. So show notes, that's where you will find all the links. Thank you so much, Lucy. Like I've learned stuff as well, like from a job searching perspective that I think are gonna help me when other people are reaching out and asking for advice or tips. And yeah, it's been a really great session, and I'd just love to thank you for your time.
Hey, Uzi, thank you so much. I mean, I have to say that like you're such a good interviewer. You ask your
Thank
questions
you.
are amazing, and then it's very insightful. And you're yeah, like from the start to now,
Thank
I
you
will keep
so
thinking, oh my
much.
God, she's such a good interviewer. You're so calm, but like you ask such a great questions, and your questions really make me think as well. And then I feel,
To hear
yeah,
that.
I've
Thank
been on a
you.
couple of, yeah, I mean, honestly, your questions are amazing. And also, I watched your YouTube videos and TikTok and LinkedIn posts as well, and Instagram. And then like your content are amazing. And then you really help.
Thank you so
Yeah, I mean,
much.
like as an immigrant in Canada, I also am inspired by your content, and I learn so much from you as well. And I'm sure people who follow you, who I'm sure they get a lot of inspiration from you. So thank you for creating such an amazing content and inviting me to your such a great podcast.
I am honored to have you. You have no idea. Yeah, and I will say, like, when I shared Hey Globally on TikTok, the video, it blew up. I think now it's over a million
Wow.
views. And there were people who'd come and they say, I can't find a lot about this company. I think this is a
Oh,
scam. And I have to go and comment to every single one. I'm like, it's a startup. It's a startup. They're starting up. There's not going to be a lot out there because I'm not seeing anyone else talk about it. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to get Lucy
oh,
on a conversation so we can just clear things up. But I was just going in there. I'm like, it's a startup. It's still a new company. So just
oh.
bear with them, but it's legit.
Oh my gosh,
So
I had no
you
idea.
have no
Thank you
idea how
so
happy I am.
much. Thank you so much. Guys, we are not scam. We are legally exist. You can visit my LinkedIn and my own website as well. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
thank you so
yeah.
much. I mean, honestly, thank you so much. I know that the fact that we got many people coming on Hey Global, you definitely contributed so much. You're such a good, great content creator. Helped us so much, and that means
Thank
people trust you,
you.
right? People trust what you say. That's why
Yeah.
they okay. Let me check it out, right? So I think that's
Yeah.
really really cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching.